19. Nottingham. St Raymond, Kings of Leon, Bon Iver, Sam Fender. I've performed at rescue rooms at the Bodega. I've performed at Waterside Festival as well, which was really fun. I've done a load of open mics through Nottingham as well, which, you know, I've been to probably pretty much everyone you can think of. But yeah, I'd say definitely rescue rooms, Bodega, and the Waterside Festival were the three of my favourites to play. So I think those performances were the best because they were probably the bigger capacity, like crowd kind of things. I mean, they weren't, you know, packed out shows or anything, but they were really just like, it felt like people were listening to you, you know what I mean? At Waterside Festival there were like a lot of people there, which was nice just to hear people enjoying your music, especially when it's a lot of originals. And like rescue rooms in the main bar, it's always on a Monday night, it's always like electric kind of thing. So there's always a really good atmosphere, and I think that's why like, I really enjoy performing it, especially there, just because there's a different feeling to a room when there's loads of people in it compared to just like your everyday open mic, you know what I mean? I think one of my favourite my moments where it kind of felt like I'd done something really good was I can remember I performed at a little gig in Sandyacre at the football club, and I did a song for the first time that I'd written about my dad. I can remember watching my dad cry while I was performing it, and that to me was like, yeah, I can remember feeling a bit emotional about it because obviously he'd really liked the song kind of thing. So yeah, that was a good moment, definitely. It was a song sort of, I guess, about the first lockdown kind of thing. It was last year. I think that's a song that described everything that was going on in my life. Like it summed it up perfectly, I think, because it wasn't, I mean, it was a time where I wasn't really you're in that in-between phase of like friends going off to university and yeah, and you just sort of, I guess, finding yourself a bit, and especially with the lockdowns and everything that went on with the pandemic, it kind of felt like quite a lonely, almost isolated time. So I think that song is sort of, it really kind of sums up the last year. I think it's kind of a really nice, it's like a summary of where I was, and yeah, I think it's a song that probably people can relate to with how, you know, everyone's been struggling over the past year, especially, you know, like with mental health and things. I think it's a really sort of prominent song in that yeah, in that bubble, if that makes sense. When I first started really wanting to like concentrate on music, I was probably about 15. It was like my last year of like secondary school kind of thing. And yeah, it was like a really tricky point in like where I was at. My parents had split up, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's one of them things, it was like a really like messy situation, and I was like finding how like bipolar life was, in the sense that it was like going from like lows to lows to lows, and then like trying to find the rough peaks in between. And for me, those like peaks were like picking up my guitar and like just playing music, and I'd never really concentrated on it before. I'd never really spent much time on it. It was just like, you know, an hour a week lesson kind of thing, and I'd never really sort of, yeah, put much effort into it. But then I started, especially at that time, just trying to like distract myself, and I think that's where it came from, that I just started playing more and more guitar, and then yeah, and then I just decided that why not try writing stuff. And the first like year or so of writing, it was utter crap. Like it was shocking. But I think it's like a learning curve at the end of the day, isn't it? And personally for me, I mean, speaking to like Charlie Kirby, who, you know, I work on all my music with, he'll tell you firsthand, my writing's only really progressed like really well in the last year. I think like the lockdown, especially at the start of lockdown, I like bought Logic and like started like getting like a home studio set up. So it was at that point where I think personally, yeah, I started to progress where I was at, because I was finding instead of just like singing to with an acoustic guitar, I was making the songs into what I wanted them to be, because I was recording them at home. I was making my own demos. So I think from that point I could see closer to the end point of the production of a song, and that was for me where everything started to progress songwriting wise, because I could then send these demos off to like Charlie, everyone who was working on the project, and it was all coming together a lot better because of that. So I'd definitely say that it started when I was 15, but it never really got into action until probably I was like 17, 18. I don't really remember a first point that was. I can remember being in a guitar lesson with my teacher at the time, and we were talking. I can't remember what we were talking about. It was like a Beatles song or something, and I sang a little bit of it for whatever reason. And he was like, "Oh, you know, you got a really nice voice." This is probably when I was like 13 or 14. I never really thought about it, because it was at that point I wasn't really that bothered with music. I was more involved with like, you know, looking at Ferraris and Aston Martins and thinking, oh, I want one of them kind of thing. Yeah, but it wasn't really until that I started picking up the guitar, and I don't really know when there was a point. I mean, I can remember last year especially recording a song called Love and Neglect at Mount Street, and like that was the first time that Charlie had said like, wow, like these vocals are incredible, Jack, which was like a real confidence booster for me, because I'd never really heard someone say like, wow, that's so good, that's incredible. But yeah, I think maybe that was a point, I would say, maybe like a year and a half ago. When I got the email from Reg to say, you know, he was interested in having a chat with me about possibly joining the Engine Room label, it was a real confidence booster, because it felt like that I was wanted to be involved in something. And after speaking to him on the Zoom call, we had a really good chat, and yeah, we just discussed the future and where I wanted to be, and it just fitted everything that I'd sort of thought about wanting to be in the next couple of years and what I wanted to do. And yeah, the guys there have just been incredible. They've been absolutely incredible to me. It'll be out on all major streaming platforms like Apple Music, Spotify, it'll be on YouTube. So yeah, go and stream it.